that when Bill was going through periods of uh, feeling guilty or struggling with his medication, it was like he was even more desirous of us not only being intimate, but having intercourse. And it came to a point where I wasn't looking to avoid the intimacy, but I was feeling a bit pressured that I had to have, one, sometimes two orgasms for him to feel complete. And we ended up having to talk about that. And I had to, and I think what was a strong suit for us is that although our communication could be very difficult around insecurity or children or medication, we somehow always were very open when it came to sex and intimacy. And when we were always playful in that area. And I remember times we loved to make love outside and feeling very free to do that. And so when we got to that point, which was about 3 years in, where I felt like I had to have orgasm and I had to have sometimes two orgasms for Bill to be happy, um, that was probably the difficulty, as opposed to not. I felt like the sexuality was being used sometimes as opposed to being able to actually talk through other issues. It was like a way of proving, see, I love you, see, we're intimate, see, we're close, where I was seeking some emotional intimacy.
Well, and I think as I hear, there's a lot of things I could respond to, but around sort of that readiness, it's not uncommon that one partner wants to feel close and connected, and it's the other partner that actually sex and in the body actually makes them feel more connected and desirous of sex. So it's like you really have to find that readiness in terms of both having a level of connection and a frequency of giving pleasure so that essentially both partners' needs are getting met. But I also think a big piece that you both are sharing is all the different factors, whether it's medication, your cancer diagnosis, the flexibility to redefine how you express yourselves on a physical level. Because so often people really do get caught up in penis and vagina as like the definition of this is that sex, right? But oral sex, but somehow they may feel other versions of giving and receiving pleasure can feel less than. And it seems like you guys really negotiated that well. And, and you both also reflected something I see often, which is the pressure, right? You, Bill, were feeling the pressure to give her pleasure. So again, not only was it the medication, which I imagine was an antidepressant like the SSRIs, because those are a class well known for those sexual side effects. But often, usually, a partner so wants to please their partner, it adds performance anxiety or performance demand. And I think, Chantal, you are kind of equally feeling a bit of that, like you had to have two orgasms. And so I think it's fantastic that you guys were really able to share with one another what was going on in a sense behind the scenes, that you could talk about the respective pressures that you were feeling. Because again, we certainly know arousal begins with relaxation. And so
Yeah.
it seems like you guys did a great job sort of unpacking that.
I think we did. I think it took us a while to get there. I mean, I always was under the impression that she enjoyed having two orgasms. And so I was, giving her what she wanted, not realizing it's not really what she wanted. Um,
That
but
is
we're,
huge, right? That because I think so often we aren't checking in with our partner to really ask, what are your turns? What do you want? And we're just jumping to conclusions, right? And so, um, again,
I
I
think
love that you said.
part of our struggle too is we tend to be very serious by nature. And when we actually get intimate or sexual or in that phase, we actually are able to be much more playful. And that was another part of Alex, the curiosity, was that when we were alone, we did silly things like in the privacy of our cottage have a motorcycle photo shoot that was erotic. I'm not a photographer, he's not an actor, but we had so much fun with it. And that to me was just as sexual as making love or having intercourse. And we've developed all our own language around times that we want to be together sexually intimately. I mean, we talk about our language is roaming, is it roaming time? And so we've evolved this playfulness. And sometimes when we get too serious in our day-to-day life, and then we make love and we're laughing, we both are aware of it and say, boy, we have to do this when we're not making love.
I wanted to just follow up on the pressure that Bill felt, but also just the question, I guess, to you, Megan, is like, is that a really common theme for men especially? And I think about addiction being often the pursuit of a high. It's often also, wanting to avoid anxiety or pain or struggles or stress or tension, but it's often the pursuit of a high. And is it common for men to believe and feel this pressure for their partner to orgasm, or is that just a sometimes thing? Like, is that a really significant issue, or does it go sort of both ways? That oftentimes it's no, actually the woman really does want to make sure that she's having her orgasm, and the man is not being particular. I don't even know if it's a gender issue or if it's just a partnership issue.
I mean, there's so much to say without even touching like the orgasm gap. But the whole point I think that's really helpful is that for a lot of couples, and I think it's cultural, like, again, the sense of the right sex is penetrative sex. I think it's also that it's quote unquote supposed to end in orgasm. And so I think that a lot of men feel pressure if they feel like their partner's not having an orgasm. And what's challenging about that is 2/3 of women don't orgasm with penetration alone, right? They need additional clitoral stimulation. So I think helping couples take the pressure off of orgasm in particular, knowing that it's really about giving and receiving pleasure. And if you ask most women, that even if they don't orgasm, does not equal that they're not really enjoying the experience, mostly in part the connection, the skin to skin contact. It feels really good in their body. So I think, again, as therapists, we can be helpful in helping our clients focusing on not performance, but pleasure, and sort of what I call getting back to the basics of pleasure. And the piece, though, I do see men is when they have a history of anxiety, right? It's not uncommon. It shows up in the bedroom from the perspective of they so want to please their partner that they put that pressure on themselves. And what we know is pressure and tension, it's constricted blood flow, right? It's constricted energy. And so that's what makes it. And again, you can't command yourself to be aroused, erect, any more than you can command yourself to be sleepy. So for me, there's a lot of helping educate the couple why he may not be getting aroused or erect, because it's not uncommon. The woman's feeling, oh, you're not attracted to me, which again is only adding to the spiral of anxiety. So I think there's a lot of psychoeducation that as therapists, we can really help couples. Again, having realistic expectations, like when there's medications or other challenges, but also importantly, getting back to pleasure and basics, because most couples fall into what we call scripted sex, right? It gets very mechanical. And so I think there's a huge opportunity to help people, as you're saying, like if they're looking for the high, where's the pleasure? What are the reliable ways we know how to give each other pleasure?
Megan, I guess the other part that I think of from how it links into recovery perhaps is, you you become so codependent and so enmeshed in the other person. And I think you're talking a lot about pleasure and the ability to have the confidence to say to your partner, like, this is not pleasurable for me, when you're so entangled and enmeshed with them. And early in recovery, there's a sense of, oh, he's so fragile, and there's such a fear of relapse. And so how do you stay away from the pressure of remaining authentic and not pretending you're having an orgasm as a woman, just so that, oh, okay, he can feel good and he can keep his self-esteem. I thought that was the part to navigate at the beginning, was how much am I enmeshed? How much am I really having pleasure versus how much do I want him to think I'm having pleasure?
And another piece I'm hearing what you're saying, which I think is so important, is that you know, when we're in a caretaking place, there's nothing erotic about that, right? I think in some ways, eroticism has its own little bit of ruthlessness, you know, to sort of be in pursuit of the individual's pleasure. And so when you're concerned about other, whether it's how are they going to feel if I don't have an orgasm, or if they lose their arousal erection, like, again, you can imagine that when we get into that mindset, there's nothing erotic or sexy about it. And I think importantly, that piece of feeling in sexually, you can hold on to your own sense of self. Because again, that might be, as you're talking about this codependent piece, maybe that may be a particular challenge with people in recovery to sort of hold on to their own sense of selves and their own wants and desires and be showing up from that place.